All right, everybody, get ready for a deep dive today into the world of dental research. And specifically, we're talking about transparency.
Yeah, transparency.
You all had some questions about that, so we went out and found this paper from the European Journal of Oral Sciences.
Hmm.
And this isn't just some academic thing. This is stuff that affects anyone who's ever been to the dentist.
Pretty much all of us, right?
Right. So we're talking over 300,000. Can you believe it?
Wow.
Over 300,000 articles published in dental journals. And these researchers wanted to see how many of them actually followed what they called 5 key transparency practices.
Right. Like, are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? Letting us see behind the curtain a little.
Exactly. Because, like, when I first read this, some of these results made me wonder, like, how much can we trust what we're reading?
Yeah, it makes you think twice, right?
Yeah.
It's not enough just to take things at face value anymore,
Right.
even in science.
Right. And so some of these, they sound really basic. Disclosing conflicts of interest, registering study protocols beforehand, even just making the raw data available.
Yeah, you would think that would just be like standard operating procedure, right?
Exactly.
Like, of course we do that.
So what did they find? Like, is this common? Or is it like the Wild West out there?
Well, it's getting better. I'll say that. Since the year 2000, things have improved.
Okay, that's good.
But, and it's a big but, over 75% of the articles mentioned conflicts of interest.
Okay.
But only 2%, and this is the kicker, only 2% actually shared their raw data.
2%.
2%.
What are they hiding? It's not the secret recipe to Coca-Cola or something.
Right.
Why so secretive?
Well, okay, there's a couple reasons. And to be fair, not all of them are like nefarious, you know. Some researchers are genuinely concerned about getting scooped.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Someone swoops in and publishes it first.
Exactly. It's publish or perish in academia. Others are worried about patient privacy, especially if they're dealing with sensitive health information.
And that makes sense, too. But still, 2%, it does make you wonder.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Lack of transparency can really breed suspicion.
Absolutely.
Even if the research itself is totally above board,
Yeah.
that's like they say sunlight's the best disinfectant, right?
Yeah.
When research is out in the open, more eyes on it, that's how you get good science. You know, scrutiny, debate, all that.
So it's not about, like, catching the bad guys. It's more like making the whole system better.
Exactly. And this study, they actually looked at that too. Like the difference between those big-name journals, the ones everybody wants to be in.
Oh, right. Like the ones researchers would kill to get published in.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, nobody's perfect, but those top journals, they did tend to be a bit better about some of this stuff, like requiring those conflict of interest statements, registering clinical trial protocols beforehand.
So those impact factors, maybe they are good for something after all. So if I'm reading a study and it's in one of those big journals, I can kind of relax a little, right? Like, assume it's all on the up and up.
Well, not so fast. Remember, even in those journals, very few were following all 5 of these transparency practices. Plus, you know, it's got a chicken and egg thing. Those higher impact journals, they tend to attract more funding,
Oh, right.
which often comes with its own strings attached, like stricter requirements for transparency.
So it might not even be that the research itself is better, just that, like, people are watching more closely from the start.
Exactly. It's kind of like, imagine a homemade meal versus something you'd get at, like, a fancy Michelin-starred restaurant.
Okay.
Both can be amazing, right? But that Michelin-star meal, it probably went through a lot more checks and balances along the way.
That's a good analogy. But let's be real, most people are not reading these research papers for fun, right? We're trying to make decisions about our own health here. So how does this apply in the real world? Like, say I'm looking into a new treatment or something. What should I actually be looking for?
Well, first of all, good for you for doing your research. That's huge. And yeah, you're asking the right questions. So when you're reading about a new treatment, try to find out who funded the research behind it. Was it like a government agency, a university, or a private company?
Because that could influence the results.
It could, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying all industry-funded research is biased, but it's something to keep in mind, right?
Okay, so we're checking for funding sources. What else? Should we be, like, hunting down the raw data for these studies?
Not necessarily about, like, tracking down the actual spreadsheets, but more just, you know, are they being open about it?
Right, right.
If a researcher is willing to share their data, even if we don't look at it ourselves,
Yeah.
it's a good sign, right? Shows they're confident in their work.
It's like a trust badge or something. But let's be honest. Most of us aren't digging through data sets. We're looking at articles online, maybe talking to our dentist. So what's the bottom line here? How can we be smart about this, especially when it comes to our own health?
I think the biggest thing is just don't take everything at face value. Ask questions.
Okay.
Look for those funding disclosures, like we talked about.
Yeah.
Were there any conflicts of interest? Did they register the study protocol beforehand? And if you can't find that info,
Yeah.
that's your cue to maybe,
Yeah.
be a little more
Like
cautious.
a little red flag.
Exactly.
Like, maybe I'll do a little more research before I sign up for that. And honestly, sometimes nothing beats a good conversation with your dentist.
Oh,
They
absolutely.
can be a gold mine of information.
100%. They can help you sort through all this,
Yeah.
figure out what it actually means for you, point you in the right direction.
Well, this deep dive has been eye-opening, to say the least. Yeah. It's like we've armed ourselves with like a whole new set of tools for understanding dental research.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remember, the more we ask these questions, the more we push for transparency.
Yeah.
The more researchers are going to have to step up their game. And that's good for everybody.
Love it. All right, everybody, you heard it here first. Don't be afraid to ask questions, do your research, and most importantly, always keep those minds curious. Until next time.